Hello, good evening, and welcome to Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo to present our top stories in the news tonight. CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI justifies his statement on the murder of OBED Kasongo. A political activist claims BOWMAN LUSAMBO'S apology is a political gimmick. Zambians mark Africa Freedom Day amid economic captivity. In international news, Gambians await government action on crimes under YAHYA JAMMEH. And in sports news, UEFA'S ALEKSANDER CEFERIN backs financial fair play rules after criticism of PSG MBAPPE deal.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Another news in detail. A 35-year-old man of Lusaka's John Lane compound who was recently accused of assault by his wife has denied being violent, claiming that his wife is the one who assaulted him. On the 15th of May 2022, Regina Perry, 29, a mother of 3, reported her husband to a community human rights organization for physically and emotionally abusing her and for accusing her of being a prostitute. Speaking in his defense, Richard Perry says his wife is the one who assaulted him using pots and fled with their household property. More in this report.
In a surprising turn of events, Richard Perry of Lusaka's John Lane compound, who was recently accused by his wife, Regina Perry, of assaulting her, has refuted some of the claims advanced by his wife of 10 years. Meanwhile, Regina Perry, who first appeared on Camnet TV on the 15th of May 2022, insists that her husband is the abuser in their marriage. Dark shadows and few cut is what has been left on her body after she accused her husband of 10 years for allegedly assaulting and using kitchen pots before he resorted to using punches on her. Mrs. Perry of Lusaka's John Lane compound says she has continued receiving threats from her husband's relatives despite Mr. Perry being released on bond after she got him arrested. Narrating a predicament, states that her husband's family does not want her to take the case to court, but they should resolve the issue. Her cry is that the abuse that her husband of 3 children has put her through is beyond, hence the need for them to separate. However, a challenge is how she will survive, as she has no means. Meanwhile, speaking in his defense, Mr. Perry has refuted claims advanced by his wife and discloses to this reporter that it was actually his wife that assaulted him and ran away with his property.
Nina pueda alapuan comer a mnyumba na ito España loko. Bemanje kuzipeza ati niende kunpumule pa nyumba aende nitaniwa kapokola. Njengu niende ngene kama zote.
And Concerned Citizen for Justice and Human Rights Organization has bemoaned the increased level of gender-based violence among women.
We are very much disturbed that members of the family to the husband's side, they are busy condemning the woman to report the matter to the police. The victims, they don't need to be victimized. They need to be supported and protected. So we are very much disturbed because there is increased number of cases instead of reduction. I think we need to do more.
According to the country's first quarter of 2022 gender-based violence, 6,915 cases were reported countrywide compared to 4,254 recorded in the first quarter of 2021, of showing an increase of 2,661 cases, translating to 62.5%, with Lusaka province recording their highest. Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
Harry Mwanga Nkumbola Ward 12 Councillor Aaron Mwanza says companies that will offer digital financial services to Lusaka's Comesa market as well as other markets in Lusaka have already been identified as one way of closing all loopholes in the revenue collection chain. In an interview, Mr. Mwanza says this will reduce the pilferage of funds as no one from the local authority will handle cash. Local Government Service Commission Chairperson Axon Sejani recently charged local authorities to pull up their socks, stating that councils have continued losing huge amounts of money despite the removal of cadres in bus stations and markets. More in this report.
Local authorities in Zambia have the potential to be one of the most thriving sectors in the country, as they generate income through paid for billboards and the collection of levies in bus stations and markets, among other ventures. Councils in the country have, however, been known for going months without pay, despite them generating income. The United Party for National Development UPND administration has expressed commitment to correcting the situation through removing political party cadres from bus stations and markets, as it is alleged that these have been pocketing funds meant for the local authorities. Despite this move, the situation at some local authorities like the Lusaka City Council LCC is yet to improve significantly, as some of the same problems have continued. Recently, a group of council workers at the Lusaka City Council reached out to Camnet TV, claiming to not have been paid for 15 months. On 3rd May 2022, Local Government Service Commission Chairperson Axon Sejani charged local authorities to up their game, stating that huge amounts of money meant for the council coffers was not reaching its destination.
There's leakage there. There are serious leakages there, which are making our councils not realize the revenues that are given them. So, task number one to our people that are manning this council, the chief executives, these we are shuffling. Please seal these loopholes.
In an interview, Harry Mwanga Nkumbola Ward 12 Councillor Aaron Mwanza, whose ward also houses Lusaka's Comesa market, says plans have been made to take all revenue collection digital.
The issue now, as Lusaka City Council, what we have resorted is to go cashless. Yes, because handling cash is becoming so sophisticated. At the end, people may start pilfering what resources. Yes, so the best way of how we can maximize revenues from the markets is going at cashless, of which we are in course, because it will maximize revenue collection definitely, because no one will be handling cash. Marketeers, they'll be paying directly. So we've engaged even Kazan, and they are very willing to come on board to assist in the issues of going at cashless.
He further explains that deliberations to take the same services to bus stations will be discussed at the next full council meeting, urging other local authorities around the country to take the same path. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Political activist Dante Saunders says the apology by Kabushi Member of Parliament BOWMAN Lusambo to President Hakainde Hichilema is not welcome and cannot be accepted. Mr. Saunders says the Zambian people suffered under the former Patriotic Front government and that those who committed crimes should first face the law before they can be forgiven. He alleges that the apology by Mr. Lusambo is meant to evade justice, considering that he is facing a number of criminal charges. And Mr. Saunders says African Freedom Day would not have true meaning if corruption continues to be the order of the day.
This is where BOWMAN Lusambo is now, right at the moment. He's come down to earth to drink water with us. And whether he's going to be the same when he's filled himself with water, he may fly back up in the sky again thinking he's big. This is a good lesson for politicians. Today they can be talking a lot, and tomorrow they are going to be mixing with us. It's true. This is what these politicians, BOWMAN Lusambo, I cannot accept his apology, because once he is full again and he thinks that HH is controlling the ACC, DEC and the police. That's what he thinks by apologizing to HH. But it's not going to work. The people of Zambia will never forget what he has done to us.
Good nice.
He must go through the courts of law. And when he is brought to book, if he wants to apologize after that, when he serves his sentence, then and then only, I will accept his apology.
Patriotic Front presidential hopeful CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI has charged that he never accused former Lusaka Province Minister BOWMAN Lusambo that he was the one responsible for the death of OBED KASONGO, who died in 2019. Addressing the media in Lusaka Wednesday, 25th May 2022, Dr. KAMBWILI says he has suffered from so many court cases that it will be reckless of him to allege that Mr. Lusambo was behind the death of the late Kasongo. Dr. KAMBWILI indicates that his statement that the late OBED Kasongo died of malaria was based on the post-mortem report. Meanwhile, Zambia police says the matter involving the death of OBED Kasongo, who died after having allegedly been assaulted in Luansha, has been forwarded to the National Prosecution Authority for a possible inquest holding. More in this report.
To immediately arrest and charge BOWMAN Lusambo and this group for premeditated death. The man was hacked.
Close to 3 years after this statement was made, Patriotic Front presidential hopeful candidate CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI has refused ever accusing embattled Kabushi Member of Parliament BOWMAN Lusambo for being the one responsible for the death of OBED Kasongo. OBED Kasongo, who was the opposition National Democratic Congress National Youth Chairperson, died after the Ron by-election in 2019. It was reported that he was attacked and robbed and died 2 weeks later in May 2019 from the said injuries he sustained during the attack. Dr. KAMBWILI had on several occasions spoken about the same issue, given the fact that Mr. Kasongo was a member of his party, the NDC, before Dr. KAMBWILI left his own party and rejoined the Patriotic Front.
Kill them. But stupid. Anina na motoka. Ilo ba ile police, aisa BOWMAN police. Bamba no kutintana na OBED alemwe bat ni wangu minefi. Monefi unde pawi. Ba police ba kano kuikata BOWMAN.
However, Dr. KAMBWILI has received backlash over an article he is alleged to have stated that the late Mr. Kasongo died of malaria, not assault, allegedly perpetuated by Mr. Lusambo. Says he will not be subjected to court defamation, adding that he has not at any point ever said that Mr. Lusambo was the one who killed the deceased.
And at no time did I say that BOWMAN did not kill or attack Kasongo. The only thing I said was that the postmortem which is there indicates that OBED died of malaria. And obviously, you don't expect me, when there is a postmortem report indicating otherwise, to go to the police and allege that BOWMAN Lusambo is the one who killed the OBED. because that would be tantamount to defamation of character. I have suffered so many court cases, and I would not be so careless to go and say Bowman Lusambo killed Kasongo, even after the postmortem report indicates that he died of malaria.
The Zambia police says the matter involving the death of Mr. Kasongo has been forwarded to the National Prosecution Authority for a possible inquest holding.
The Zambia Police Service would like to clarify that the matter involving the death of OBED Kasongo, who died after having been allegedly assaulted in Luanshya, has been forwarded to the National Prosecution Authority for a possible inquest holding. We are urging the public to exercise restraint concerning this matter as the due process of the law takes its course.
Meanwhile, Dr. KAMBWILI, who commented on various issues affecting the nation during his press briefing Wednesday afternoon, says the United Party for National Development administration will not pass the 5 years mark if the high cost of living is not addressed.
The mistakes that you are making today, you can't see them because you are the people who are making these mistakes. But the people outside, like me, are seeing your mistakes. And when we advise, listen.
Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Patriotic Front Presidential hopeful CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI, I beg your pardon, Zambia has joined the rest of the African continent in commemorating African Freedom Day, being held under the theme Leveraging on National Resources to Boost Food Security. Zambia's Republican President Hakainde Hichilema led members of the diplomatic corps, government officials and individuals in laying wreaths at the Freedom Statue in honor of men and women who sacrificed for freedom of the continent. And United Party for National Development UPND Deputy National Youth Chairperson Trevor Mwinde says African Freedom Day has been commemorated without any bloodshed, a sign that the country is free. Meanwhile, Democratic Party Deputy Spokesperson Frank Sichone says the country is still not free, considering the number of arrests being targeted at opposition members. More in this report.
Today joins the rest of the continent in commemorating the African Freedom Day under the theme Leveraging on National Resources to Boost Food Security. And Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema led members of the diplomatic corps, government officials and individuals in laying the wreath at the Freedom Statue in Lusaka in honor of men and women who sacrificed for the freedom of the continent. United Party for National Development UPND Lusaka Province Chairperson Anderson Banda says it is good to see the country commemorate the Africa Freedom Day without any bloodshed.
Everybody that has made this year's African Freedom Day non-political. African Freedom Day today, it has really given us its true meaning. We have seen one where there is no one fighting anybody. We have seen peace. We have seen unity of purpose.
So if the people that we need to appreciate this year is the young people of UPND, and also those young people who were not part of us as UPND, but were Zambians who also sacrificed with our people. These people need to be appreciated.
Meanwhile, Democratic Party Deputy Spokesperson Frank Sichone says more still needs to be done in order to ensure that citizens are free from unnecessary arrests.
And apart from that, we need also to ask government to actualize this freedom that we got on independence. Today we are now a democratic country, and we expect the people to have all the freedoms, freedom of expression and everything, so that the people enjoy this freedom. But of course with caution, and of course with the sense of understanding that freedom cannot be abused.
The event was, however, not short of entertainment from those who only come with one agenda: to cause commotion.
Most of you guys would have been hanged, but the church is a man of God.
Anyway,
he knows it. ni bakuru bakuru manje chifuku chichabe chibapaya bamene banachita. That's why bakani papo nawe. He's all right as well.
Prudence Chota reporting for Camnet TV News.
In a related development, a Lusaka-based freedom fighter has called on the government to identify senior citizens who fought for independence across the country and put them on support programs. Mr. Ronald Chikopela, 84, has lamented how the government has neglected him and other senior citizens by leaving them on the social cash transfer program. Mr. Chikopela says he has made efforts to reach the authorities, but to no avail. He hopes that the African Freedom Day will be a reminder to the Zambian people to appreciate the effort of the freedom fighters. More in this report.
On October 24, 1964, Zambia got its independence, freeing itself from its colonial dominance. This was made possible with tireless effort by the forefathers across the country who thought of nothing but the best for its people and the future generations. As Zambia joins in the commemoration of the African Freedom Day, a Lusaka-based freedom fighter has called on the government to identify senior citizens who fought for independence across the country and put them on support programs as a way of appreciation. Mr. Ronald Chikopela, 84 years of age, from Lusaka's John Howard compound, has lamented how government has neglected him and other senior citizens. He says this during an interview with Camnet News.
Nanda kai twa gulima maganka sa chira tarafu atawe tiara nix turera natwayo kuchirenya takuifileki nanda gata kwa ngifili tandizo nalikala muno nalifirwa abana abagasina nasharafu nanda wafya kuchitasi gotawe shukuru bose bali palangana nasharafu tiarafeneka pangana tibaraneka pangana nombe vya kutinyititeta pali vya upewa kutishana twaliesha nix amapepa lambie kwa yaliku kule twalitwala matama freedom party barachi takwa.
And senior citizen Henry Mlenga has called on the youth to take advantage of the knowledge from older generations as a form of knowledge exchange.
Muma request yonse nangwa president wale pele filambo kuma freedom fighters. Takwa wanangu kuno kujona. Secondly, kulia wabene abakalamba balia. Bantu abayishi benchito shimbisha kusana. In all of fair, yali no wakuba yakutata abakalamba balefunda mu misepela. Nchito shakale. But tuikala fe kumanda takwa bife tufunda abana yo kuse kuno kujona wati tete watupele ko fenango ni area yinono uko tuingala chita offload ifyo tuwaishibakale twasambilisha abana ngefitu chiripacha wa skills.
The purpose of the African Freedom Day was to annually mark the liberation movement's progress and to symbolize the determination of the people of Africa to free themselves from foreign domination and exploitation. Alexander, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Democratic Party President Harry Kalaba has charged that it will be difficult for Zambia to attain economic freedom on account of prioritizing foreign investors at the expense of empowering Zambians. Mr. Kalaba regrets that most productive sectors of the economy are in the hands of foreigners 58 years after independence, while the country continues to grapple with high debt levels. He is disappointed that Zambians are being displaced from prime land by foreigners, thus calling on the government to stop foreigners from owning land in Zambia. Details in the following report.
25th May is marked as Africa Freedom Day, and the biggest question has been 58 years of self-governance, is Zambia economically free? Zambia, just like many other African countries, still depend on donor support to finance its development, regardless of the fact that Zambia is the second largest copper producer. Almost every sector in Zambia is highly dominated by foreigners, be it the tourism industry, manufacturing and mining. The Democratic Party leader, Harry Kalaba, feels there is need to change if the country is to attain economic independence. Speaking when he featured on a Camnet program dubbed the People's Verdict, Tuesday 24th May 2022, Mr. Kalaba underscored the need to take proactive steps in order to benefit from the booming electric vehicles industry.
How will you benefit? Because when you talk about the vehicles being propelled by electricity, the European Union has said in the next 20 years, they are going to graduate from using diesel or petrol propelled vehicles. They have said they want to now migrate to using electric vehicles. One of the biggest components of electric vehicles, do you know it? One of the biggest components is cobalt. You are right, Soko. It's cobalt. Zambia is producing cobalt today. Zambia is producing cobalt from Luana. We are producing cobalt from Mopani, from KCM, from everywhere. But do you know that Zambia doesn't even stock anything as in terms of exports, in terms of cobalt? We don't record nothing. Zambia doesn't export cobalt, and yet where there is copper, there is cobalt. How come we are not exporting cobalt? We are only exporting copper. This is why we have said ourselves, a body like Memako, which was in charge of seeing that every company or every mineral mining house which is exporting, Memako was overseeing to really be sure about the exact quantum of what is being exported.
And the opposition leader is saddened that Zambians are being displaced by foreigners from their land.
Here in this country, we have allowed them to own land and begin selling land. When we come into government, we will not allow a foreigner, and this I say it without any apology, we will not allow a foreigner to own land in this country. But we will allow them to lease so they can empower Zambians. They are free to go and rent a farm. Maybe lease is a different. They are free to go and rent a farm. They are free to go and rent a small holding. They are free to go and rent, not to own. Title must be in the hands of a Zambian.
And Leadership Movement Deputy Secretary General Chalwe Chandalala says the issue of land among Zambians must be given serious attention as Zambians risk becoming foreigners in their own country.
Today, what's happening in our country, we are not happy about it, where our grandmothers, our grandfathers, or Zambians at large are becoming squatters in their own country. Foreigners are easily accessing land compared to Zambians. Today, Zambians are easily being evicted on their land just to pave way for foreigners to invest. We as Leadership Movement, under the able leadership of Dr. Richard Chilombe, we are saying enough is enough. We need to make sure that we give land ownership entitled it to Zambian people only.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News.
Ministry of Information and Media Director spokesperson Tawa Kawana has implored parents to inculcate knowledge of the country's liberation struggle and national heritage in their children so that they can be abreast with the country's roots and values. Speaking at an African Freedom Day commemoration in Lusaka Wednesday at Handmaid Sisters, Our Lady of Annunciation Convent School in Lusaka, Mr. Kabwana, who is also a parent, says the government is keen on ensuring that Zambian values are preserved, but that it can only be possible with concerted efforts among stakeholders. Details in the following report.
They say Imichikula Empanga, meaning young people are the future generations of tomorrow. Too similarly, to train up a child in a way he should grow, for when they grow up, they will not depart from it. This is the case of Handmaid Sisters, Our Lady of Annunciation Convent School in Lusaka, that is trying to inculcate morals and important dates on the national calendar so that the children appreciate, preserve and transfer the Zambian heritage. 25th May is African Unity Day, also known as Africa Day, is celebrated annually. It is a day that reminds the African countries of their freedom from the colonial masters and the founding of the African Union. Children at Handmaid Convent School commemorated this important day through songs, dance and plays that show the rich heritage of Zambia.
Our slavery shall perish. Tifuna freedom yetu mwalengeza mavuto hapa tiza kumena na kupisha siti kufuna hapa mazungu yenda boyaka machoka tiza wina na chimwemwe.
can continue with them like this, to encourage them to do more than this. So this is a good thing, good presentations from our own children.
The event, which attracted parents, saw director spokesperson in the Ministry of Information and Media join in the celebration and thanking the school for inculcating good morals in the pupils.
Had to shed blood for us to gain independence and to gain the freedom that we are enjoying and that we are passing on to them. Therefore, it is our responsibility as parents in our generation to ensure that we pass on to our children a country that is void of violence, a country that is void of tribalism, a country that truly is united and worthy to be called one Zambia, one nation. This new dawn administration, under the leadership of His Excellency President Hakainde, is very emphatic on two scores: economic recovery and, most importantly, the country's unity. Because nothing can happen if we are not united. And seeing what is happening here today is very encouraging. To see the parents from different walks of life, the parents from different regions of our country coming together, bringing our children to the same school.
And outgoing head teacher has urged the parents to continue supporting the school while welcoming the incoming new head teacher, Sister Florence.
Also say thank you to you parents. I can see that we have a lot of parents today coming in to come and celebrate African Freedom Day with the children and the teachers. We are grateful for your support. We are grateful for your coming to come and be with us. And it is at this also moment that I would want to say thank you so much, parents, for the support, the encouragement you gave to me when I was heading this school.
Just a few words to you all, that we should cooperate, as sisters said. I'm just new, I'm just maybe I can say 2 days old in school. So please, let us cooperate.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News.
Patriotic Front Msanzala Member of Parliament in Eastern Province, Elias Daka, in partnership with other stakeholders, say they are promoting boarding school education for girls as one way of reducing teenage pregnancies. Eastern Province has been noted as a hotspot for teenage pregnancies, with the latest data from the Provincial Director of Health indicating a total of 12,982 pregnancies in 2021. In an interview, the lawmaker has expressed concern that despite the free education policy under the current administration, teenage pregnancies in the province are still high, further calling for enhanced efforts from organizations working to promote gender equality. More in this report.
Despite teenage pregnancies being a concern in all parts of Zambia, Eastern Province is a major concern as it has continued to produce record numbers of teenage pregnancies. 2021 data indicates that the province recorded over 12,000 cases of teenage pregnancies. With the free education policy introduced by the current administration, one would assume that more girls will now attend education, which will see the number of illicit activities reduce, as more girls would now be engaged in productive activities. Patriotic Front PF Msanzala Member of Parliament in Eastern Province, Mr. Elias Daka, however, notes that this is not the case, stating that the problem of teenage pregnancies is still a major concern in the province. The MP has therefore reviewed that with the Increased Constituency Development Fund CDF, he along with other civic leaders plan to promote boarding school education for the girls after the said schools are constructed.
Yes, so even in this CDF that has come, particularly in my constituency, we have put a deliberate policy to say we want to cut off on weekly boarding schools, because that's where our girls are very vulnerable because of the situation which they find themselves in. Unless those children who are just from the nearby villages, coming from their parents, yes, we can allow that. But those who are coming just specifically to come and rent a house and be there for a week, then they go back to their mother's places. Those we are trying to discourage, because that is the the point where, because it is free for all. You find a boy and a girl, they sleep in the same house. So it changed to promote a lot of illicit sex and then early pregnancies for our girls. And this can let our country not to develop, because if our girls are not developed, even this equity we are talking about, this what we say, the 50-50 ratio, it will not be there.
He has further called on organizations working to promote gender equality in the country to make specific programs for Eastern Province if to win the fight for gender equality.
No, it is true, the statistics are showing that in Eastern Province there are a lot of early pregnancies and early marriages in the Eastern Province. But what I would like to say is that all these are coming with the background of no sensitization to our people in the Eastern Province. And these NGOs, they have gone to sleep, because like in my constituency, it's very rare to have such a program. You get the point? So going forward, I would urge NGOs, us as MPs from Eastern Province, to carry out sensitization program.
United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 5, to which Zambia is signatory, aims to achieve gender equality by 2030, and the reduction of teenage pregnancies is key to achieving the same. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
You're watching Camnet TV and not just another channel. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after this break.
We take risks every day, with some big things and some little things. Other risks are out of our control. But no matter what's important in your life, Savenda Insurance has got you covered. Whether it's for your home, vehicle, investments, or the people you love, you shouldn't have to worry about securing the future. Let us handle that. Since 2014, we have helped Zambians protect their health and personal property, offering peace of mind and fostering progress and development. Taking risks is what makes us grow. Insurance is what keeps us going strong.
The trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the ministry.
There's so much data.
Mom?
Yes, baby?
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow!
Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. National Action for Quality Education in Zambia, NAKEZ, has appealed to the Ministry of Education to equip schools at primary and secondary levels with libraries and books that meet the country's education requirements in order for quality education to be attained. NACE's Executive Director Aaron Chansa tells Camnet News that a lack of education facilities such as libraries, especially in public schools, is hindering the attainment of quality education. He says the United Party for National Development administration must put in place educational policies aimed at improving education standards in the country.
We are not happy with the number of libraries in our country, especially in the government schools. Our survey indicates that there are very, very few schools that are accommodating libraries, and this is killing the reading culture. It's also contributing to the poor quality of our education, and we now want to call upon the government to actually come up with a deliberate policy to make sure that all schools, all government schools, must have a library, and even those that are going to be constructed must have a library involved. Otherwise, the culture of not having libraries in our government schools is very bad. It's not good for quality education. It's not encouraging learners to read. It's not encouraging teachers to write. And this culture is bad for quality education. And as a country, we need to up our games and make sure that libraries are part of our education. And this we know will improve the quality of reading, the quality of education, and also the quality and the performance of learners in national exams.
Transparency International Zambia TIZ Executive Director Maurice Nyambe notes that high levels of corruption are a major cause of food insecurity and malnutrition in Africa. Mr. Nyambe has urged African governments in general and the Zambian government in particular to implement agricultural programs as a means of securing the national resilience and food security of the poor and vulnerable in society. TIZ, Mr. Nyambe says, without institutional stability, governments will continue to fail the African people and deprive them of the benefits they are deserving of, such as that of freedom from hunger in a country of plenty.
And one of these key challenges is, of course, the issue of corruption, which continues to wreak havoc in terms of the effect and impact that it is having on Africa's ability even to feed itself. If you look at the case of Zambia, for example, we have had cases of corruption with regards to land administration at different levels. And what this does is that it has resulted in negative impacts on the ability of the poor and vulnerable to be able to engage in productive agricultural endeavors because they are not able to access the land that will allow them to engage in such ventures. And so we call upon the UPNG regime to also reflect on the promises that were made in terms of their commitment to revamp the agriculture sector, and we do hope that this commitment will be actualized so that you have interventions in the sector that are not going to promote corruption, but that are going to promote enhanced food security for all citizens of Zambia.
Traders at Soweto BH Market say it is difficult for them to consistently adhere to the guidelines of COVID-19 due to the nature of their businesses. In an interview with Camnet News, Lucy Musonda, a trader at the Said Market, says although the market security team ensures that before people have access to the market, they have a face mask, some people tend to remove them upon entry. More in this report.
Despite the earnest appeals from the Ministry of Health for people across the country to take the COVID-19 pandemic seriously, their appeals seems to have fallen on deaf ears. A check by Camnet TV News at Lusaka Soweto Market Wednesday found traders at Soweto BH Market going about their normal businesses without no form of compliance towards the set 5 golden rules of COVID-19. The traders told Camnet TV News that COVID-19 guidelines are difficult to adhere to at the market due to the nature of their businesses.
ibishwa byekansa by'abantu abantu tebenga balefala amamasi bambi balengira kefifine n'okufala amamasi balekitiza kikansa abantu n'abakwate kikansa okufala amamasi so muno mu market tebengi bakibageti baleke bakitulefala bakitatulefala amamasi.
Lucy Msonda explains that the trading place requires them to be in constant contact with many people, hence making the guidelines such as social distancing impossible. Despite the possibility of COVID-19 cases surging due to the approaching cold weather, people seem to have completely forgotten the effects of the disease, as evidenced from the relaxity in the observance of the 5 golden rules. Mercy Chanika reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
Human Street Health Aid Zambia has encouraged men to be part of the menstrual hygiene conversation. Speaking when he was featured on the Camnet Breakfast Show, Organization Director Edgar Silwemba says men should take the front seat if period poverty is to be alleviated in Zambia. He says despite menstruation being a natural biological occurrence, the topic still remains taboo in many societies, hence making it difficult for women and girls to talk about it.
If men take key interest in the welfare of the girl child, we take this issue as an ordinary thing, we're going to make the lives of these people even better. Because I'll tell you that from that day onwards, the girl felt very supported. And this is why if you go out into these schools, if females or female teachers talk about this issue, the girls don't appreciate it as much. But if we, the men, because usually they are scared to talk about it because of taboos, if ask them, but if we open up to them, they're like, oh, so this
it's a normal thing. Yeah, it's a normal thing.
So that is why I'm always saying, if we are to fight period poverty, and if it has to have its relevance in this country, then men should take the front seat.
This is Camnet Television News. We take our second and final break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
We take risks every day, with some big things and some little things. Other risks are out of our control. But no matter what's important in your life, Survender Insurance has got you covered. Whether it's for your home, vehicle, investments, or the people you love, you shouldn't have to worry about securing the future. Let us handle that. Since 2014, we have helped Zambians protect their health and personal property, offering peace of mind and fostering progress and development. Taking risks is what makes us grow. Insurance is what keeps us going strong.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back, and in international news, the Gambian government is set to ratify or reject the findings of a report on atrocities committed under the rule of the country's former president YAHYA JAMMEH. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission investigated crimes committed while YAHYA JAMMEH was in office. But victims are skeptical the authorities will hold those accused to account. Meanwhile, energy companies may return to Mozambique following the improvement of security conditions in Cabo Delgado. The poverty-stricken northern province has been suffering increasingly violent attacks by Islamic State-affiliated insurgents since 2017, many targeting towns and communities near the $20 billion gas export terminal, which is backed by major international investors and companies. The fossil fuel project has been blamed for stoking the insurgency in the north of the country, which has left thousands of people dead and displaced hundreds of thousands. For more in international news, here is a roundup.
Yusuf Mbaye comes to this hospital 3 times a week for physiotherapy. He was shot and left for dead in 2000 by troops loyal to Gambia's former president, YAHYA JAMMEH. Yusuf says he was only able to regain partial use of his hand after 22 years of physiotherapy. Doctors say his survival was a miracle. Even eating is quite a struggle. The Gambia's Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission recommended he be paid compensation, but he returned the $400 he was given.
I didn't need money. I need my health. My health is more important than anything else.
And that is something neither his attackers, the Truth Commission, nor the current government can give him back.
Survivors and victims' families have singled out members of the hit squad known as the Junglers for most of the atrocities committed under former President YAHYA JAMMEH. They want them tried and punished. But activists also want political leaders to be held accountable for not stopping those crimes.
Journalist and Red Cross volunteer Omar Baro was killed while helping victims shot by the security forces. His family believed he was targeted because of his work as a journalist. His widow, Awasani, isn't as confident the report the government will release will bring closure.
You just cannot reconcile and forgive people without knowing. How can you forgive somebody? You don't know who killed your husband. How can you forget that person? You have to have justice then. Then after we forgive, we reconcile. But before that, we need justice.
For her, justice means punishing those responsible for the crimes committed, including YAHYA JAMMEH, who she says still has some influence here in the Gambia. The government says it took this long to ensure a thorough and satisfactory job of investigating allegations of right abuses. Officials hope government action on the Rights Commission's recommendations could heal wounds and reconcile a nation struggling to come to terms with its recent past. But most victims like Yusuf Mbaye remain skeptical.
Energy companies may return to Mozambique following the improvement of security conditions in Cabo Delgado. Despite the military advances, the head of the Southern African Development Community mission in Mozambique said it was too early to declare the end of terrorism in the northern province. Attacks and atrocities against women and children are continuing in the forests where they are hiding, according to Mofo Malomo. In addition to the SADC, the government has the support of a military contingent from Rwanda. For Jose de Oliveira, a researcher for energy affairs, the conditions are beginning to be met for the return of multinational companies to Cabo Delgado. He says he thinks the support that can be given to Mozambique to solve the situation of military and social insecurity will bear fruit, because Mozambique is a country with the biggest reserves to be developed. There are not many gas reserves, but the biggest concentrated ones are in Mozambique. With the energy crisis caused by Russia's war in Ukraine, Europe is looking to Africa for alternative sources of liquefied natural gas. De Oliveira says he's convinced that the projects in Mozambique will be successful. Given that natural gas is going to be a transition fuel and will last a lot longer in use than oil, and given the importance that LNG is now assuming in the world, lawyer Alexandra Chivale, however, does not have the same optimism regarding the gas exploration zones in Mozambique, despite a new law approved by the parliament. He says there is a risk that through these attempts to fight terrorism and money laundering, it could hurt rights and guarantees and freedoms of the citizen. On May the 19th, the Mozambique Parliament approved the law to reprehend, combat and prevent terrorism, but public opinion is divided over its possible limitations on press freedom and freedom of expression.
It's now time for sports news. And in sports news tonight, Australia's men's cricketers have raised concern about visiting Sri Lanka in June and July, but the tour will go ahead. Sri Lanka is gripped by an economic crisis, leading to a shortage of essentials like fuel and medicine. It will be Australia's first tour of Sri Lanka since 2016. The tour is scheduled to include 2 tests, 5 one-day internationals and 3 2020s. UEFA'S ALEKSANDER CEFERIN backs financial fair play rules after criticism of PSG's MBAPPE deal. UEFA President ALEKSANDER CEFERIN says they will not be told what to do after criticism over Kylian Mbappe's contract extension at Paris Saint-Germain. French striker Mbappe signed a lucrative new deal at PSG, having been strongly linked with Real Madrid. After the 23-year-old decided to stay, La Liga called the French club's contract offer scandalous. CEFERIN told BBC Sport that UEFA has financial fair play rules which are quite strict. UEFA's financial fair play rules are designed to prevent club expenditure exceeding income by more than a set amount over each 3-year assessment period. To end Camnet television news, the headlines once again. CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI justifies his statement on the death of OBED KASONGO. A political activist claims BOWMAN LUSAMBO'S apology is a political gimmick. Zambians mark Africa Freedom Day amid economic captivity. And in international news, Gambians await government action on crimes under YAHYA JAMMEH. In sports news, UEFA'S ALEKSANDER CEFERIN backs financial fair play rules after criticism of PSG MBAPPE deal. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from the book of Exodus 20, verse 12. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. On that note, we've come to the end of the news. Thank you for watching Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.